Hey, great. Greetings, everybody. David Avocado Wolf here, and dealing with some interesting stuff. We've got a snowstorm that's been going on for literally weeks, so my house is almost completely under the snow. And I also have a very dear and close friend of mine who is making his near exit at this point due to a long battle with cancer. And what an amazing guy! What a wonderful guy! But he's getting to that point where the pain's rising. He's very, very weak, and the whole family's together. And fortunately, he's going to go. He's going to go out with dignity. And maybe we can say a prayer for him. We'll start this call off with a prayer for him. We're going to be joined by my dear friend Daniel Aaron. We're going to talk yoga, and we're going to talk about some of the tough questions in yoga, including how to deal with injuries and death, and the things that could bring about a change in our major change in our lifestyle. When you lose a loved one, and this is one where my dearest Mustafa, who I grew up with, is a very close friend of my family, and his son and daughter are very close with me, cousins, and it's big, when you lose a loved one. But I don't want to get too harped on that. But if you guys can send out a prayer for Baba Mustafa, that'd be wonderful. And then we'll bring in our guest here, and right through the blizzard, right through it all, from the snow-capped mountains of Maui, is Daniel Aaron. Daniel, welcome from Maui. How are you?
I'm feeling so good, and so grateful to be in this world that is so kooky these days. That I was just in Vancouver, and they were having a really unusual snowstorm there, going crazy. I fly back to Maui, and we have the lowest elevation snowfall that in recorded Hawaii history. Exciting times.
Very interesting. On that same day, Kauai reported snow on the top of Kokei for the first time in recorded history. And on that same day on the Big Island, 191 mile per hour winds were clocked at the top of Mauna Kea, the highest ever recorded at that facility. So very unusual weather condition going on all over the Northern Hemisphere, especially here as well. We're under a blizzard. It's full on blizzard out there again. And maybe at the end of this call, Daniel, I'll show you what it looks like out there. I can barely get out the door. I have to bring the shovel in the door so I can get out the door. But Daniel, you have taught yoga for so many years, and so many of our fans out there are yoga teachers, yoga practitioners, yoga lovers, go to yoga classes. And I wanted to dig into that with you today. I want to get some real practical information out of you. One is I want to talk about yoga injuries, because it seems like all these yoga teachers and everything I know, they're always dealing with some kind of wrist thing or something's going on. Right now I'm dealing with a hip thing. And I think what happened from a yoga class a couple months ago, it's almost better, but it's still kind of lingering on. Tell us about yoga injuries and what we can do about it.
Yeah, well, it's true, and yoga is essentially, it's using the physical body, or at least yoga asana, the physical postures that we're talking about, which is most of what yoga is. It's using the physical body as a way to tap into something beyond it. And for a lot of us, depending on where we're at in the yoga thing, we tend to push our bodies pretty hard, and that's encouraged. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's like a massage, and you need a massage to have enough kind of grit to it that something's happening, but not so much where you're like, oh, this hurts, right? It's like where to find that sweet spot of opening. And on the way there, injuries definitely happen in yoga. And, one of the first pieces of advice I give with it is, right, what's the message of it? What's the learning of it? Because we're so trained in Western society to say, ooh, I don't like the symptom. Let me get rid of that thing. And if we can first say, all right, what is it? What's this here for? What do I need to learn or see? That's the first step.
Excellent. My friend Howard Wills says knees, elbows, neck, that's like brother, sister, mom, and dad. And, these kind of things right here, injuries to the fingers or relationships with friends, there's always something involved there. So I find it interesting when somebody has a certain type of injury, like a hip injury is really close to the core and probably related. Interestingly, as I found out, my dad had a hip surgery. I went and saw him in Orange County, California, and he had a hip surgery. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Right around the same time as I, quote unquote, injured my hip in yoga. But let's jump into this a little bit with what you're saying. I think that's a very important piece of the puzzle. Most of the yoga classes I go to, Daniel, and I, in the comments, let me know if you're getting this too. I bet you are. It's going too fast. It's crazy, the speed of it. It's like you're doing 15 different things in 1 second. Is that part of the problem?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And it's not to say that speed is bad, because if we're really trained well and really in tune, we can go quite fast and still be in touch with what's going on. And like, we've got such a Western culture push to force our bodies into some kind of submission to get a certain shape to them, so they look a certain way. And we have this idea that if we go really fast, we're going to get there faster. And the biggest key thing, the single thing that makes it yoga, is breath. And we need our movements to be connected to and coming from the breath. I went to a class here on Maui not long ago, and I had the same experience, and I've been practicing for 25 years, and I've done some hardcore stuff. And I was like, man, it's not that I can't keep up. It's that I don't want to keep up with the speed of this class, because it's taking me out of touch with myself. And yoga should really be the opposite of that. It should be bringing us back in touch with ourselves.
This is David Avocado Wolfe, everybody. I'm joined by Daniel Aaron over there. That's my buddy. And he's over there in Maui. Great yoga teacher. Has been practicing yoga for 25 years, teaching yoga for at least 15. Ran many yoga retreats and teacher trainings all over the world, and especially in Bali. But the one thing that's really interesting about Daniel right now is he's in Maui, which is currently snow-capped, or at least was until very recently, which is a very rare occurrence. I think it's the only time it's happened in our lifetime, and definitely the lowest elevation snow that's ever been seen in Maui in recorded history. So in case you're wondering if something weird's going on with the weather, that's pretty strong evidence that something weird is going on with the weather, whether it's artificial or not. Daniel, I want to ask you about inversions. There's all different kinds of poses. I don't have time to do yoga every day, but I'll tell you what I do is I like go back into my room over there, and I have one of those little yoga things where I can get upside down and flip upside down. I also have a yoga swing over there. And so I try to get that in. Is that a good idea?
Oh man, inversions are the biggest thing in yoga, the peak, right? Like even headstand, the name of it, Shirshasana, it's known as the king of poses. And my favorite thing about inversions is just the simple metaphor. Like, yogis have always been rebels, right? They're people who say, like, the herd is going this way, the mainstream is going this way, pessimism, gravity, disease. I'm going this way, right? I'm going into something else. And if we want to create a different sort of life, it just makes sense that sometimes we got to tip that thing upside down and get a different perspective on it.
I like that. I've always felt that about inversions and about yoga in general. When you do weird things with your body, it also helps you to think differently. You want to comment on that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, and even on the simplest physiological level, right? We walk around all day with our heads on top and the blood draining down from there. So if we do a little bit of practice where we're breathing intentionally, oxygenating our body, and then flip upside down and get all of the blood from the entire body to flow into our head, that's so powerfully stimulating to our brain, right? Just on the physical level, let alone the energetic spiritual level, which is really where it's at. Absolutely.
If, a lot of us think, I've got 5 minutes to do something. And I tell people, hey, do a 5-minute workout. And for many years, I've done the 5-minute workout where you do like a minute of push-ups, and you do a minute of sit-ups, and you do a minute of squats, and you do a minute of burpees, and you do 30 seconds rest in between or 15 seconds rest in between. But, I've hurt myself doing that. The push-ups sometimes irritate me. The hips right now aren't working right, so I can't do the squats and the burpees. What's a good 5-minute yoga workout? I was thinking of the 5 rights. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, well, the 5 rights are fantastic. Absolutely. And just in case any of our listeners aren't aware, that's, Tibetan yoga, the Tibetan rights, and they're great. And you can do them like that, and it just gets energy flowing. I also love, and this happens for me a lot of time, there's not a lot of time in the morning, 5 minutes of sun salutations, whichever one you choose. So powerful, right? Absolutely.
I like that. That's another one I keep coming back to is the sun salutations. and the importance of it. Okay, let's talk about diet and yoga. We know traditionally yoga was like a vegetarian path and vegan path, but you see a lot today of like more, people eating like beef, and they're beefing up in the yoga class, and you see some pretty buff dudes in yoga class these days. How important is the vegetarian way of life to the yogic systems? Because the yoga class is like one of the 8 limbs of yoga, so it's a whole system, right? That's what I love about it. Just starts to get us in the door and starts to teach us a whole system of health. But how important is it to be vegetarian? What are your thoughts on vegetarianism these days?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and I love that you pointed out that the yoga is much bigger than just these physical movements. And I love the physical movements. I'm not dissing that at all. I use them every day. And, the real practice is something much bigger than moving. It's about a way of thinking, a lifestyle. It's really about connecting to the truth of who we are, to spirit. And to me, that's where vegetarianism comes into play so much. And without any sense of dogma, without telling anybody that they should do this or they should do that, the real purpose of yoga is union, bliss. It's like enlightenment. And it's hard to have enlightenment as our aim while also participating in the killing of other beings with whom we are meant to be uniting or could be uniting. So, we know there's so much evidence on a physical level the vegetarianism is helpful to us. To me, though, the biggest reason for it is to open up a connection from our heart with all beings, which, every tradition has a connection to that. Every spiritual tradition advocates that.
I really like the idea of just doing what you can with where you are, what you've got, right? So this idea that, you have to go 100% vegan tomorrow. If you've never done that, it's not a good idea, as we know from all our years of experience together. I mean, we've been friends for over 20 years now. And in all that time, the shock treatment is not really the best way to treat your body with any change in diet. You've got to figure out what's the right thing for you by experimentation, for sure. But I like what you said in the beginning about pushing yourself to, into discomfort, but not to the point of injury. And that's really, I call that the 10% rule. And sometimes even 10% is too much, where you don't want to throw something that's going to, shift somebody 30%. It's too far, too quick, too fast. Maybe 10%, maybe 5%. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, and we want to be thinking long term, right? This is a marathon. How do we invest in yoga or whatever our spiritual practice in a way that it's sustainable, that we can keep it going, right? Because we're not looking for a one-hit wonder sort of experience. We're not looking for radical change overnight. We're here long term. So, easing into our discomfort, pushing ourselves a little bit so we feel satisfied. We're like, yeah, you know what? I went beyond myself today. And to me, that's the biggest thing. Like, I overcame myself. I overcame my resistance. And we do that a little bit each day, like that Japanese term kaizen. Well, that leads to mastery. Just a little bit of growth every day is so powerful.
I want to get into some of the comments that I'm seeing here. I love getting into the comments. First of all, what's interesting is we've got people coming in from all over the world. I see people from Sweden, Alaska, Germany, Georgia, Portugal, Texas, Canada, and I'm currently in Canada right now. You're currently in Maui, and we're both currently near some snow, which is a shocker. It's really coming down, big flakes. By the way, everyone who's joined us right now, I'm going to try to get you guys to see this. I'm going to show you if I can. I'm going to take you to my front door and show you how crazy it is out there before this call is done. But I wanted to get into some of the questions that people have. Somebody said, there was like, is yoga for a fat guy? What do you think? Because sometimes people say, oh, I'm fat. It's too late for me. Forget yoga. I'd rather watch TV.
I had this great experience one time where I was teaching yoga. I was living in Seattle, and my mother called me on the phone, and she said, I just saw this 60 Minutes report about how great yoga is. Yoga's for everyone, and they do it in jails, and they do it for kids, and they do it for elderly people and people that are overweight. And then she said, and if I wasn't so old, I'd do it too. But, and Sharat, Patabi Joyce's son, one of the, legends of yoga, he says it really well too. He says yoga is for everyone except the lazy person, right?
Ooh.
Right? Because it takes some effort, right? It means going a little bit beyond what's comfortable. And it's like when somebody goes like, well, I would go to the gym if I was in shape. Well, the reason you go to the gym, the reason you go to yoga is to get more flexible, to get stronger, to get healthier, to get more vibrant. That's the whole reason for it. And one of the things I love about it is it works for anyone, no matter what you start with, no matter what your shape, no matter what you're thinking. If you apply yourself to it even a little bit, you're going to get powerful results.
I like going to hour-long yoga classes, Daniel. I got to tell you honestly, when it's an hour and 15, I'm kind of like, okay, I'll get through it. But the hour and a half classes and your classes, I remember going to your classes. Your classes would go on for like 2 hours. They were brutal. And especially those ones in Bali where you'd be sweating and like 10 minutes into it. What is the ideal length of a yoga class for all our yoga practitioners out there? People love to go to classes. What should we be looking for actually? Should we go to every class? Should we try every kind? What do you think?
Well, I think you nailed it really well. Like for yourself, an hour is the sweet spot. And absolutely, let's try out all of it. Try out different teachers, different styles, different studios. We've got online classes, so many ways of getting into it. And the one that works is the one that we keep doing, right? The one that feels good. And so that we say, yeah, I want to do that. That sounds fun to me. I'm drawn to it.
Everybody who's just joining us right now, I'm joined by Daniel Aaron, an old friend of mine. We first met way back when, I think probably New York. Is that right? Back in New York?
Yeah.
And he's currently in Maui, Hawaii. So all of you who want to get out to Hawaii, big crazy weather this year. In 2018, highest rainfall recorded in 100 years in Kauai, and I think also Big Island, definitely in 50 years on Big Island. That's really crazy. And then massive snow this year on both Maui and Big Island. So they're doing a lot of snowboarding up there. And then we've gotten the most snowfall I can remember. I've been in this place for 14 years, this old cabin. And our house is almost buried. I actually had to, Daniel, I had to get up on the roof. This is wild. I had to get up on the roof and shovel off all the snow off this roof. And just to get on the roof, there was a cornice of ice and snow that was 3 feet high, a meter high. I had to get the ladder up there and just get a spot where I could even get on the roof with the metal cleats, so that I could stick into the ice. And it took 12 hours of hard labor. I guess I need some yoga after that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you. What should I do after all that? A lot of shoveling, a lot of lower back. What do I do for my lower back? What do I do for my back? What do people do for their back?
Well, one of the best things we can do for our back is really even just starting with the conceptualization of lengthening it. Because so much of what we do in life is compressing it. We're weighed down by life, by our burdens, by our thoughts. So, one of my favorite things is like with one of those yoga balls or gym balls, or even just the right kind of chair or a rail, just laying back like this and, getting some lengthening of the back and stretching that out and then just breathing into it. So powerful.
I just saw someone that checked in from Cuba. Welcome from Cuba. That's super cool. Mirna Ruiz. That is awesome. And then someone else there saying they're attempting to teach their 4-year-old yoga. What's the right time to start teaching your kids yoga?
As soon as possible. My daughter, used to come around when I'd be practicing and she was crawling. And she would crawl on the mat and it just looked fun to her, So as long as we are into it, making it fun and interesting for them, even if it's just breathing, if it's just playing, if it's pretending to be like a tree or a snake or something, fantastic, awesome.
I want to ask you real quick, Daniel. You also do other kinds of work as well outside of yoga and your own coaching work. And I want to hear a little bit about that side of your life, because I've seen your evolution through all the years as a yoga teacher and as just a yoga practitioner. I mean, you're the guy. Every single day we'd be in the car traveling across the United States and wherever we were in the world, you would be there doing yoga every single day. And it's interesting. It's gotten you into coaching work. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, exactly right. The trajectory for me was like, hey, this stuff works for me. Then, hey, I can help other people with it. So I did, I taught yoga classes for years. And then eventually it became more, I felt like I could help people more by teaching them about the lifestyle, about the thinking and philosophy, and how to take the concepts of yoga and apply it into our life. And that's what led me into coaching.
Do you do clients? Do you take clients like anywhere in the world? Somebody can call you up. Is that how you do it?
Oh man, it is such a blessing the way technology works. Like the way we can talk right now, that's how I work with one-on-one clients. And absolutely, I have clients in Australia, clients in Europe. And I don't work with a lot of people one-on-one, and I have an online membership also. But yeah, it's just amazing to me that we can connect in this way. It's such a blessing.
I'm going to see. I want to give you a little promo here if we can. Not sure exactly how to do this. I'll see if I can figure it out. What is your website? How do people track you down? I'm going to pop this in here, see if we can get you a little promo.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. DanielAaron.com. And then information about coaching is under My Services, I think it's called.
Information about our favorite yoga teacher, Daniel Aaron, and his coaching. So I'll put that link in there for you guys. Let me see if this works. Boom. I think that should. Okay, cool. So I think we got it in there, and I also put my inner circle thing there, which is thebestdayever.com. Let me see if did that go. I don't know. It's hard to tell with all these different. Let's see. It's hide. No. Show. Let's see. This is gone. Okay. I think I got it in there. Oh yeah, there it is. It did go in there. Okay, got it. Nice. Okay, so there you'll see on your screen, DanielAaron.com, information about our favorite yoga teacher, Daniel Aaron, and his. Well, I don't know. Maybe I didn't finish that thought. His coaching didn't quite get on there, and I can't change it now. Anyway, so that's maybe we can have one of our guys say, "Hey, Brandon, if you're watching right now, if you could put in a little Daniel Aaron plug for him and let people know how to track this guy down." Okay, so I did promise everyone that I was going to take you out and I was going to show you what kind of snow is going on here, Daniel. I think I just want to kind of do this just for our people because this is so completely wild and crazy. I just have to do this just for everyone who's in like Florida or everyone who's in Australia right now. And they're wondering like, what's it like over there? I'm going to show you what it's like over here. It is so full on. Every day I'm shoveling my way out of here. Okay, so I can unplug that. Unplug this. Uh-oh, I still got you, I think. Okay, yeah. You still with me?
I'm here.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to show you this. Watch this. All right, everybody. I'm going to get this view going. Here we go. Bam, right like that. And I'll get it like this. There we are, like that. Okay, watch what's outside the front door right here.
Wow.
That's a wall. I'm going to take you guys outside. Watch this. Boom.
That's amazing.
Completely snowed in. Look, almost the house is snowed in. Look at that right there. Look at that. Boom. Almost completely snowed in. And yes, I am barefoot in the snow. I love doing barefoot in the snow.
Yeah.
It's the best. Somebody was like, "You don't do barefoot in the snow." I'm like, "Yep, I do." And I'll take you guys out into the blizzard. Okay, Daniel. So now that we're out here and we're having some fun finally, what else can you tell us about cold yoga? Because we've heard so much about hot yoga, but there's something to be said about plunging into the snow.
Absolutely, man. Cold therapies are again, it's like they're so good for us physically, what they do for our lymph system alone. But to me, the biggest thing about it is just this idea of overcoming ourself and our ego and our resistance. And, and I do this almost every day in some way. Even, this is going to sound very pansy-like for y'all that are there in those kind of conditions. But like this morning, I went and got in the ocean. And, it's not real cold here on Maui, but it's cold enough that part of me goes like, oh, I don't want to. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And so just that moment of saying, come on, man, who's in charge here? It's not that wussy part of myself. I'm going to overcome my resistance. I'm going to overcome myself, my small, limited thinking. It's so powerful to do that.
It really is. It really is great. And I tell you what, when you just jump into the shock of it, sometimes, you got to you get out of your mind. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the thinking can completely paralyze you. I'm just going to Get this sealed up on the door here. All right, now we're back. And sometimes you just have to just not think, right? You're just going to do it anyway. And that's what I love about Wim Hof. He gets people to just do it. Stop thinking about it. You get out there and you just do it. Now, let's talk about one last thing I want to get into here, Daniel, is this whole thing, the expansion and contraction. We hear a lot about the hot yoga, right? Where in the hot yoga, what's happening is you're expanding your tissue, and then, you can afterwards sweat, obviously, and then afterwards, cool off and then, contract. This expansion contraction part of healing, part of cleansing, part of detoxification. I'd love to get your 2 cents on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so powerful and feels so good. I remember years ago having a discovery about this, going to Harbin Hot Springs, and and they have these beautiful hot and cold pools, and they had one pool that was so hot. When I first went into it, I was like, oh, I can't do it. It's too hot. It took me like 5 tries till I finally got into it. And then I didn't even want to move. I was like, if I move, it's going to be really hot. And then if I went from there to the cold and back a few times, what I got to is Satori, like a sense of enlightenment. And I think that's really what this expansion, that's what the universe is doing, right? That's what the waves are doing all the time, expanding, contracting. Life is about growth rather than stagnancy. So anything we do that opens that up, it enhances our life.
Let me see. I'm gonna have to turn a light on here. It's getting dark all of a sudden. The sun sets right about right now, very close to sunset in these parts. By the way, real quick on this. This I got to just throw this at you, Daniel. We haven't had this conversation, I don't think. The equinox, which is coming up here, which is March 20th, March 21st, is not actually the real change in seasons. The real change in season depends on your latitude. Like in Honolulu and there in Maui, it's going to be March 6th. It's March 15th. March 15th is actually the day that the season changes there at that latitude. In Los Angeles, it'll be March 16th. In this region up here in Ontario, it'll be March 17th. In Reykjavik, it'll be March 18th. Is the actual change in seasons. We call that day the equilux. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for everybody who's wondering, like, when is this winter going to be over? When is this snow going to stop? Or maybe some of you snowboarders or skiers are like, we don't ever want it to stop. One other thing I wanted to mention, too, is if you really enjoy the content that I put out there and that Daniel puts out there, check out danielaaron.com, DanielAaron.com. And I'll see if I can, I'll put it back on here for you. Let's see. Here's his, here we go. Here's his info. DanielAaron.com. I think I'm learning how this program works. I'm having some fun with this. And if you want to join me for my personal coaching, what we do, and we have Daniel on quite a bit with our inner circle work, that's thebestdayever.com. You can find the link. I'll put a link in there somewhere. It's down there already. And we've got a couple hundred people in there. Those are my closest peeps. And we get into it. We get really deep. And we're in touch every day. So if you want to be in touch with me every single day with, content of like, what's DHA? What is it? Long chain omega-3 fatty acid. What do I do with coconut oil? Whatever your thing is, what's charcoal all about? What's the C60 product? What is this thing? How does this thing work? Which, by the way, Daniel, you got some of this, I think, last time I saw you, didn't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think I gave you some. I hope I gave you some. This stuff's the bomb. That's the C60.
And let me jump on and say, David, that the idea of being with you every day is something that I can recommend. When we first met, we traveled the world together for about 2 years together almost every day. And just to be in the conversation of what makes the best day ever, what makes the ultimate body ever, what makes our consciousness rise every day, it's so powerful. And I've got a bunch of friends that are in your inner circle and rave about the experience. So I give the thumbs up recommendation for that kind of opportunity to be close with you like that.
Right on. Thanks, Daniel. That's really cool. And likewise, of all the people I know, Daniel, you're one of my best friends, one of my favorite people. We actually loved having you so much. We can't wait to have you back to our place in Hawaii when we were there. God, how long ago was that now? 6 weeks ago or something? That went by quick. So it was just a real great joy to have you and your daughter stay with us at the house and be there on our farm helping us out. Really cool. And by the way, in that crazy storm that put that snow right up there above you in Maui, it actually knocked down several trees, including our best macadamia nut tree came down. Boom. I've never seen that in all the years I've been on that farm. So, we're recovering. Anyway, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. Daniel, Aaron, check out his coaching. This guy is the best ever. What a bro, and what a great coach to have around, and what an amazing yoga teacher. And thanks for your yoga tips. Really appreciate that. And I think you got my head on straight about this. Now that I'm thinking about this injury, I'm like, yep, it's related to my dad. Yep, it's related to pushing too far. Just those things that, I should have gone 5%. I went like 30%. But anyway, thank you so much. I'm David Avocado Wolfe. That is Daniel Aaron, and we will see you next time on the broadcast. This has been Diet, Health, and Medical Freedom with our focus today on yoga.
Woohoo! Right on.